Play to win your share of $1 million every week this football season at DraftKings.com. With 1 Week Fantasy at DraftKings, you can play when you want with a team you want. Just pick your contest, pick your team, and pick up your winnings. Hurry to DraftKings.com now. Use code TAKE and play for free with your first deposit in Sunday's $1 million fantasy contest. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Enter TAKE for free entry now only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
The Giants began the season 0-2, while the Saints were 0-3. Both have only lost once since. This Sunday, they go head-to-head at the Superdome. Touchdown! Coverage begins at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The topics are hot. The discussion is heated. And we're on fire. The First Take Podcast starts now.
Here's what's ahead on the First Take Podcast. Actor-director Spike Lee is in the house. Will his Knicks make the playoffs? Plus, we're talking LeBron, D-Rose, and Steph Curry as the curtain goes up on the NBA season. And should Big Ben play against the Bengals Sunday? Let's get started. Hey, good day. Welcome into First Take. Spike Lee is here. We'll talk to him in just a bit. Definitely get into some NBA topics. Meanwhile, of course, Skip Bayless is here. And Stephen A. Smith joining us from Philly. I'm Molly Karam. Gentlemen.
Oh, you're Molly Karam. That's nice to meet you, Molly. How are you? How are you,
it's one
Stephen
of those
A.
days,
Smith?
Stephen A.
What's up? Good morning. How y'all doing? Good morning. How y'all doing?
Now that it's NBA season again, you just got this new glow about you. I love this. You just look different.
You know how I love my basketball.
This is your time.
Maybe a little bit different, but I still look good. I mean,
Well,
there's no surprise there.
I'm here to tell you, you will not like what I'm going to say about basketball to start the show. But here we go.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah,
I know that. I know that the Cavs lost. That means LeBron lost, which means I got to listen.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Stephen A., I think someone's a little fired up today, a little sassy to my left. All right, let's do it. Opening night in Chicago, the Bulls beat the Cavs by 2 points. Skip Bayless.
Yes.
What's your takeaway?
Stephen A. Smith, here we go again. Same time next year. I'm about to be branded, probably by you, as yet again a hypercritical hater of LeBron James. But I'm sorry, I have to tell the truth. LeBron James, even though it was opening night, he failed to close a game that he should have closed. And I realize it's just game one, so I'm not going to make too big a deal out of this. But LeBron James is being graded by me, and maybe only by me, as the best player on the planet. You told me that all year last year, and I gave it up to you. I said, you're right. He's the best player on the planet. He is now the Vegas betting favorite to win his 5th MVP this year. And just yesterday, as you well know, ESPN.com released its final 10 spots on its 1 through 100 ranking. And as we know, we went back and forth. Kobe was 93rd on this list. Dwayne Wade was 46th on this list. Guess who was revealed yesterday as number 1 overall on this list? LeBron James. So I'm sorry, even though it's game one, I cannot tell a lie. I cannot give this man a pass because he's better than me or anybody else giving him a pass for what happened last night in Chicago. LeBron James came up small in the clutch again. And this was a game that was begging for LeBron James to put it in his back pocket and leave town with. This was a game in the fourth quarter. You've got President Obama sitting courtside. You got a TNT national audience, and you got a Bulls team searching for a new identity. Who are we? Do we play defense anymore? Are we all offense? I don't love this Bulls team, and I don't think it's nearly the threat it used to be to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And meanwhile, you have a Cavaliers team that clearly, as they wait for Kyrie and Shump to get healthy, they need to bank some wins just for home court advantage when it really matters in the postseason. So here we are, fourth quarter. LeBron did score 8 in the fourth quarter. I thought he was very good up to that point. He was very good for the whole game. But down the stretch, who knew? Kevin Love comes up big and makes 2 big threes that get them back in position to close the deal. 10 seconds left. Derrick Rose misses a 3-point shot. All of a sudden, the ball is in LeBron James' hand with the game on the line, down 2. and he drives to his right, and he shies away from Pau Gasol and ultimately tries to shoot a little runner that has no chance and gets easily blocked by Pau. So here we go again. This is LeBron James we're talking about. This man, this is a freight train. This is the moment where he has to power up through Pau Gasol, take the ball up to the basket. He's going to get that call because he's LeBron James, and he's going to have to go to the free throw line to make a couple of free throws to send the game to overtime. Now, obviously, in this game, LeBron had been 0 for 3, missed all 3 of his free throw attempts, so maybe he was a little gun-shy about having to go to the line and make his first free throw of the night and then his second free throw of the night. But still, this is LeBron, but they got a little reprieve. Ball got batted out of bounds by Pau. So 3 seconds left. Mo Williams, his old running mate from the old Cavs days, tries to get him the ball in bounds, and LeBron couldn't lose Jimmy Butler. God bless Jimmy Butler, but I thought LeBron would at least get open somehow to get the ball from a very adept Mo at passing the ball in bounds, and Mo's left with a last-second lob toward the middle of the court that has no chance, goes over everybody, and the game is over. So, again, it's just game one, but the odds-on MVP came up small at a moment that again, as the number 1 ranked player on ESPN.com, he should have closed. Your thoughts?
Well, my thought is that I'm not going to entirely disagree with you. Obviously, LeBron James acknowledged that he was small driving to the basket, that the man-child that he is, he could have driven to the basket with some degree of more veracity, more fervor. Obviously, he should have been a bit more physical. He went up a little bit weak. There's no question about that. And it was something, even though he was effective, he had 25 points and 10 rebounds. Even though he was obviously effective, I just didn't see the LeBron James that I'm accustomed to seeing. I thought he seemed a bit apathetic at times during, integrals of the, just elements of the game. He just didn't seem to be his regular competitive, feverish self. He didn't seem to be that guy. He seemed to be a guy that was in cruise control. But let's not overreact. It's 82 games. It's game one of the NBA season. Obviously, he had the shots in the back, and he was out in the latter part of preseason. We don't know what his situation is. We know that ultimately we anticipate that he'll get better. But there were even questions as to whether or not he would be ready for game one until he declared that he was ready to go for game one. So clearly at less than 100%. He still dropped 25 and 10. There's no doubt that Pau Gasol, who had already had 5 blocks on the game, that's not the guy that you want to drive to the basket on and go up as weak as LeBron James went up compared to how he's accustomed to going up. But he's LeBron James. It's one game. It's game one of the regular season. And we all know he's measured by what happens in May and June as opposed to what happens in October and November. I'm not really worried about it. I think if he had to do it all over again, he'd handle that play a bit differently. I'm not going to get on him for not getting but so open against Jimmy Butler, because if you had David Blatt, if you had somebody other than the 6 feet tall Mo Williams inbounding the ball when LeBron James was in the paint area and just holding up his hand, you would have had somebody that could have lobbed it up to him appropriately and got him the ball. But Mo Williams is relatively short. His vision was being impeded because Hoiberg guarded the inbounds passer, and as a result, what ended up happening. But in the end, what it comes down to is that one of 82 games, LeBron James was good, but he wasn't the great LeBron James that we're accustomed to seeing. The Bulls, obviously highly motivated, new regime, new era. Tom Thibodeau out, Fred Hoiberg in. The players excited about playing ball on the offensive end of the floor. You saw what you saw. Jimmy Butler looked good. Derrick Rose didn't look so great, only shooting 8 of 22 from the field. And don't get me started with what he said in his post game about how he still couldn't see out of his eye. I mean, you just never know with this guy. And so when you look at it from that perspective, the Bulls were going to be hyped for this game. I remember listening to Frank Solich Sola for the New York Daily News on radio, talking about how you could guarantee that the Bulls are going to win a game like last night because it's the kind of game that Cleveland would lose going on the road into Chicago with the beginning of a new regime, the crowd hyped, everybody electric, and ultimately it's going to be a tight-fought game, but the outcome was the outcome. No need to overreact, Skip Bayless. Your points are valid. I'm not refuting them. I'm simply pointing out that it's just game one. It's not something that you're going to be able to say the vast majority of this season. It's the first game of the regular season, and LeBron came in there less than 100%. He should have gone up stronger. He should have been a bit more physical. He should have looked more involved at certain intervals of the game, but it's just game one of the regular season. It's no big deal. It's certainly not going to get in the way of Cleveland winning the East, so just pump the brakes and calm down.
Okay, I'll pump the brakes because I'm surprised at your take on this. You are agreeing with the sort of the overall premise that LeBron didn't look as locked in as you thought he might look.
Absolutely.
He didn't play with the tenacity or the fury or the whatever, the drive, the will, like it's a game we've got to have. And again, as you well know, he is almost always played good to great in the house that Jordan built. He's basically owned that building that houses the Chicago Bulls. So with our president at courtside, what would you attribute that to last night? Do you think it's just the back? Should we give him a pass because of the back? The numbers are good, as you said, 25 and 10.
But let's be clear. I'm not saying give him a pass. I'm simply saying let's not overreact. Nobody plays all 82 games effectively. There are always nights when you think and know you could have and should have done something differently. I think last night, particularly on that final play, or the next to last final play, the penultimate play, I think it's one of those situations where LeBron would, if he could do it over, he would have gone to the basket a bit more aggressively. There's no question about it. All I'm saying to you is let's not overreact. It's LeBron James we're talking about here. It's one game, and the vast majority of the times he's going to do a better job on a play like that, particularly is when he has any path to the basket, especially against a 7'1" player like Pau Gasol. He would usually go up much, much stronger. He will be that freight train that we're accustomed to seeing. That's correct. I think that back has something to do with it, but I also acknowledge that back or no back, he didn't seem as locked in as we're accustomed to seeing him throughout last night's game.
Would you agree?
I watched it. He didn't seem that way.
Am I overreacting off one night of seeing this Bulls team and saying this team is no longer the threat it used to be? I don't see it any better than maybe fourth in the East, behind obviously the Cavs, the Heat, the Bucks, and then the Bulls. Would you agree with that?
Well, I agree with that before a game was played. I think losing that edge with Tom Thibodeau defensively, Joakim Noah not being in the greatest of health, meaning not being 100%. I think when you look at it from that perspective, and Derrick Rose just being a perpetual question mark, I don't think there's any question that they're not the team that they used to be. I think the top four teams in the Eastern Conference are Cleveland, Miami, Washington, and Milwaukee.
All right. And what was your take from Derrick Rose last night? Because I saw a guy who looked a little better than I thought he would. He did take 22 shots, made 8 of them, got in the lane. Most of his 15 of the 22 were shot in the lane, so he was taking the ball to the basket. I'm just not seeing that guy, that MVP I used to see.
Well, I didn't see that guy from the second he opened his mouth with all of these quotes. You know, when you open your mouth with quotes about how you're worried about being healthy for your kids, 10 years from now. And you're talking about that's an excuse to bring up your contract. When you're sitting there and you're talking about your eye and you got double vision, but you're going to try to play and all of this other stuff. I mean, if I recall, there was a play last night where it looked like he might have tweaked his ankle a little bit, and you hear the announcer say, oh, my goodness, oh, Lord. Because that's the state of affairs that exist in Chicago. If Derrick Rose has a cold, you're wondering how long he's going to be out.
Yep,
That's how bad it is. And so because of that reality, I don't think the Chicago Bulls are what they used to be, because their edge used to be you were going to be in a dogfight every single night. They were going to come at you. They were going to be relentless like a pack of wild dogs or what have you. They were going to come at you, and you were going to have to figure out a way to offset that. That is not what you look at right now when you see the Chicago Bulls.
Yep.
You see a very talented Jimmy Butler. You see a Derrick Rose who's gifted and can play and can still hurt you. Pau Gasol could do some things. Mirotic is not bad, but overall, they're just a good team. There's nothing great about them.
And as for the Cavs, Love and LeBron without Kyrie are now 1-4. The Golden State Warriors looking pretty good. They received their championship rings on Tuesday and celebrated the occasion with a win over the Pelicans. Reigning MVP Steph Curry scored 40 points, 24 in the first quarter, the third most in a season opener by a reigning MVP in NBA history. Not too shabby. Yesterday, he wasn't mentioned in the conversation for MVP on our show here, Stephen A. Did we overlook Curry?
You're damn right. And to Steph Curry, let me say this. I slapped myself. I apologize, because it was very ignorant of us not to mention Steph Curry. This brother came out there, and all I could think about when I watched him perform in that fourth quarter, Skip Bayless, all I could think about was Jay-Z. You understand? It allowed me to reintroduce myself. That's what he did last night. I'm talking about Steph Curry. I mean, you talk about a brother that showed up. Reigning MVP, NBA champion, all right, ring ceremony, all of this going on in Golden State, and everybody talking about Anthony Davis. Steph Curry's like, do y'all realize who I am? And went out there, and he probably remembered, the Players Association giving the MVP award to James Harden. He probably remembered that too. Yep. So I just thought it was one of those situations where Steph Curry went out there and just reminded everybody, ain't no fluke this way. I'm still the marksman that I am. I'm still the greatest shooter that this game has ever seen. And, oh, by the way, I will boogie on you whenever I want to. You must have forgot. So let me remind you. And he went out there in that first quarter, 24 points in the first quarter, just put on a show. I was like, Lord have mercy. Look at this boy go at it. Now, obviously, the New Orleans Pelicans, they had a bevy of injuries. We understand that Tyreke Evans wasn't there along with a few others. We get that. They're an up-and-coming team, not quite good enough yet. Alvin Gentry in his first game, sad to see him get blown out like that. Wasn't a good feeling as far as I'm concerned, even though it was really nice to see him as one of the assistant coaches get his ring last night, too. They got a long way to go. But in the end, what it reminded you of is that these are the reigning defending NBA champions that we're talking about. And whether or not they're going to win the championship, you're still going to have to contend with them in order to get to the finals, because the Golden State Warriors, specifically Steph Curry, put the NBA on notice. I have no intentions on going anywhere. You want this trophy that I have? You're going to have to come and take it. He put us all on notice last night, and I apologize for forgetting about him just a little bit. I mean, I didn't forget about him because he is the best shooter on the planet as far as the best shooter we've ever seen in NBA history. But we may have been in a process of taking the Golden State Warriors for granted as champions because of the bevy of injuries that happened en route to them capturing the title. I think what we did was snub Steph Curry a little bit by not recognizing that while we were talking about them, we needed to throw a caveat out there. We weren't talking about him. This dude is something special, and I'm glad he reminded us of that last night.
To me, even though you slapped yourself over this, if Steph were here right now or where you are right now, I think he would hug both of us and thank us for not putting him. We didn't even bring his name up as we went back and forth about who would be the MVP. Yeah. I also want to specify, I was picking who I thought will win MVP, not who I think that I believe is the MVP of the league. And I thought at the end of the year last year, Steph was sort of grudgingly voted MVP. It was close. You got to give it to him because Golden State has been the story. They've run away with the Western Conference. And finally, to me, I'm trying to sort of look into the psyches of the voters. people just threw up their hands and said, well, I guess we have to vote for Steph. But here's my point about what happened last night. Obviously, the reason I did not love Golden State to win the West this year is they virtually added nobody of note in the offseason. And I think you would agree with me, all the Western contenders all got a little to a lot better by their offseason additions. We know what the Spurs did. We know what the Clippers did. We know that Oklahoma City just got better by virtue of health. That if Durant and Westbrook are healthy and stay healthy, they're going to be the factor that you believe they are. So you look at Golden State, and what did they add? Well, they really only added one thing, and that's a big chip on their shoulder. Thanks starting with Doc Rivers and the quote about they were a little lucky. I'm paraphrasing the quote, but we all thought they were a little lucky because they avoided all the top point guards. They didn't have to play the Spurs. We could go on and on about who they didn't have to face on their way up the ladder. And then obviously they got Cleveland not at its strongest when Kyrie went down, and we can go in through all, and Kevin Love was already obviously out. So my point to you is, last night, Steph was saying, watch this. And to your point, he wanted to remind everybody he's still there and he's still Steph with 24 first-quarter points. Also, to your point, I can't overreact to this because, listen, Tyreek is not there. That's a key defender in the backcourt. Drew Holiday could not play last night. He's just not ready to play yet. He's beat up and hurt. So my point is, Nate Robinson had to start for the Pelicans. And love him on offense. He's a spark plug wherever he goes, but I don't know if he can defend anybody. So all of a sudden, I think it's big advantage Steph. So it was open season to put on the show that he put on last night. I'm not taking anything away from it, but again, because we have overlooked him and then overlooked his team, that's given them a huge advantage here because it's like they added something, and that is the no respect card that they can play.
What I would tell you is that don't use any other player to offset what Steph Curry did, because if you're a player relying on physicality and athleticism, that's different. With Steph Curry, when you can literally, not engaging in hyperbole, not embellishing, not exaggerating, but when you can literally pull up from 30 to 40 feet and shoot it like a regular jump shot, Skip, there's no way to defend that.
No.
There's just no way. I don't care if it's Nate Robinson on you. I don't care if it's Kobe. I don't care if it's LeBron. When you pull up like that, all you can do is hope that the dude's missing, because you're not going to block shots like that most of the time. All right, that's number one. Number two, the New Orleans Pelicans, let me say this. I think in 2 to 3 years, Anthony Davis is going to be the best player in the world. That was one pathetic performance last night. 4 of 20 from the field, minus 16 when you're on the floor. That's just unacceptable. You, Anthony Davis, let Anthony Davis know this right now. You are a stud, but you just signed a new contract that's calling for you over the next several years to be paid $145 million. It's just one game. I understand. You're a bad boy. You're a superstar in the making. You can't perform like that last night. Not on that stage. And I understand that Golden State could be all over you and they're champions and you're up and coming. You can't do 4 of 20. Yep. That just can't happen. That was a very pathetic performance on his part. Damn it, don't let it happen again. You're too gifted for that. You get to the free throw line, or you can do something to avoid shooting 4 of 20. That's really what it comes down to. But Steph Curry, he's just special, Skip. He's just special. And you know, he's the greatest shooter I have ever seen in my life. Sure. He's the greatest shooter I've ever seen in NBA history. Yep. And you know, so this is just par for the course, man. This is just par for the course. He's either going to make them or he's going to miss them. But it will have nothing to do with the opponent. I don't care if Kawhi Leonard was on him. That makes a difference. Please don't get me wrong. But not when you're pulling up from 35. I mean, what can you do? What can you do when you're pulling up from 35? That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Back to Anthony Davis. I said Anthony Davis will win this year's MVP, and my reasoning was that he's become such a media darling because he's a stats darling. He was #1 in PER, player efficiency rating, last year. He probably will wind up that again this year. And I thought if that team can just hang in and make the playoffs even in the 8th or the 7th spot, this will be his breakthrough year when it will be clear to the voters that statistically he's off the charts better than anybody else. This will be his year. I thought he crumbled last night under the opening night hype of all that, because he's obviously hearing that. He's got to go out and prove it against the defending champs. And I don't know if you got to see the start of the game, Stephen A., but he's been talking all offseason about how he's going to shoot threes. So right away, right out of the box, he goes in the corner and shoots a three. Thought he got fouled, missed it, and screaming to the refs going down the court. Couldn't get it out of his system, and kind of went in the mental tank after that. Well, that's just that's a kid player. You got to grow up. You got to play through that to start a game. And he was just out of sync and out of kilter the whole night. He's got to grow through that, and I believe he will. But the truth is that last night I did not love what I saw, and I've told you before. Does he have that it factor to be the best player in basketball? Well, that, again, just game one, but that didn't show me much.
Eventually it'll come. Last night was a bad night for him, but it was a great night for Golden State. And to show you the testament to Steph Curry's greatness, it ain't just him that he does it for. He makes other players better. Andrew Bogut hit all 6 of his shots from the field. What else do you need to know?
Mike Tomlin confirmed on Tuesday that Ben Roethlisberger will return this weekend for the showdown versus the undefeated Bengals. The Steelers went 2-2 playing without Roethlisberger, who missed the last 4 games with a sprained MCL, a left MCL, and a bone bruise. Here's Big Ben on why he didn't play last week.
I felt good in practice, but then Thursday night it just didn't feel real good. Kind of ached on me a little bit. Didn't sleep a lot, so it was a little discouraging. But I guess that's part of the rehab process.
Stephen A., do you want Big Ben to return Sunday against the Bengals, or you think it's too soon?
I do not. I believe it's too soon, me personally. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm certainly not Coach Mike Tomlin. Their judgment is obviously to be trusted, but if you just ask in my opinion, I'm just of the mindset of this. After Cincinnati, you've got Oakland and you've got Cleveland, both at home. I think that even though it's likely that you'll lose to Cincinnati in the event that Big Ben Roethlisberger doesn't play, they really get after it. And it's such a heated contest. For you to be out, for that knee to be hurting 2 days or so before last week's game against Kansas City, I'm just of the mindset that another week would do wonders for Big Ben Roethlisberger, because to me it's about the marathon, it's not the sprint. I do know and I do understand, Skip, that every game is pivotal. The Steelers at 4-3 without Big Ben Roethlisberger, it's a virtual guarantee that they'll be 4-4. But that leaves you 8 games left to handle your business. And I think that extra additional, I'm talking about from the time his knee was sore, I think that additional 9 days or so helps immensely. Now, obviously, he didn't play last week, so he's coming back this week. But then you add to that, if he weren't playing, then you got an additional week to prepare for Oakland. That's more than 2 weeks to really help that knee heal even more so than it originally was healing. And I think that's the most appropriate way. If this were near the tail end of the season, Skip, I would be all for it, because you lose or you go home. But I think that because they're 4-3, worst case scenario is that they lose without him. Then you got 8 games to salvage your season. And you can rely on Ben a bit more so than you could now. If you bring him back in there now and he goes down, then you jeopardize looking forward to the next 8 games without him. I know that's not the way to go. That's not the way to think normally when you're talking about the sport of football, because one play, no matter when it is, can cost you a season, if not your career. I totally understand that. But if I got Big Ben Roethlisberger with this offense and these weapons, I want him as close to 100% as possible. And if that means having to sit him out against Cincinnati, then so be it.
I am shocked by the position you're taking on this. And for the record, as most of our audience knows, you're a lifelong Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Big Ben Roethlisberger here, the toughest quarterback in all of pro football, if not the toughest player in pro football, a guy who somehow survived a motorcycle crash. I'm going back a ways, but a crash that might have killed most human beings, and he somehow lived to tell about it. I still think there's a cumulative buildup of those injuries that he's still having to fight through, but I was surprised by the soundbite that we just played from Ben, and it hurt me a little bit on Thursday night. I fully expected Ben to convince Mike Tomlin I have got to play at Kansas City against a reeling Chiefs team that we can beat if I play. Even if I'm 50% of what I can be, we can win that game. 100% of Landry Jones could not win that game and did not win that game. Obviously, 100% of Landry Jones will not beat Cincinnati. I get what you say. It's a rivalry, so you play a little over your heads. You try to hang in. I don't know. I just don't love their chances. I think they do fall to 4-4 with Landry Jones if we go by your scenario. Here's what's coming up in the rearview mirror. Have you been checking out the Oakland Raiders? I keep bringing them up on the show, but listen, they are legit this year. They get a little better every game. They had a huge win at Chargers. I know the Chargers are reeling now, but still, all of a sudden the Oakland Raiders are 3-3. The Jets have to go to Oakland. Are you sure that's your wild card team, the Jets? Are you sure the Jets can win that game? I'm not. In fact, I'll go out on the limb right now. I say Oakland beats the Jets in Oakland.
Wow.
And then guess what happens? Then the Raiders come to the Steelers, and that would be, according to Stephen A's scenario, then that would be Big Ben's first game back. Even though, okay, so, okay, are you sure? Are you sure about that? Because the Raiders are coming up fast, and they might just steal that final wild card spot from your Pittsburgh Steelers.
But I'm not proclaiming that it's going to be, everybody's going to be victorious. Once Ben Roethlisberger comes back, they're going to win all 8 games. What I'm saying is the better chance of him lasting the final 8 games of the season, to me, vastly improves if he doesn't play against Cincinnati than if he does. That's the argument that I'm making. I think that rust, combined with it being a knee injury, you got to remember, and let me emphasize this. If this were an upper body injury, Skip Bayless, I would not have any issue. Shrug it off, go out there and deal with that. But you got to remember how he got injured, stepping up into the pocket, and then having, the hit wasn't meant to be low as far as I can tell. But nevertheless, the guy was stumbling and then ran into his leg. But when you consider the fact that you're coming off that kind of an injury and what you need to do to fling that football, how you need to step up in the pocket, I think a nasty, ugly-looking injury like that is something that you have to guard against. And I think that you do whatever you can to delay him coming in until absolutely, completely necessary. And I don't think that the Cincinnati game is that time. I like the idea of him having 2 additional games against Cleveland, against Oakland, no matter how tough they may be, before having to travel to Seattle to play them. I just like that as opposed to him coming back against Cincinnati. I'm concerned about that.
Are you concerned that your Pittsburgh Steelers will lose the final wild card spot that they now occupy if they basically forfeit another game to Cincinnati?
No, I'm not concerned that they'll lose. Obviously, I'm not concerned about that because I think if Big Ben Roethlisberger doesn't play, they'll lose to Cincinnati. What I'm concerned about is Big Ben coming out there not fully healthy and getting himself hurt where the rest of the season is jeopardized, as opposed to him getting that additional week of treatment and him being ready for the Cleveland Browns.
I ask you, after the show, just go scan the rest of the Raiders' schedule and tell me how many of those games you think the Raiders can win, because it ain't that tough.
Well, I got it right in front of me. I think they could beat the Jets. I think they could beat Minnesota. I know they can beat Detroit and Tennessee and Kansas City.
Well, keep going.
And they played San Diego and Kansas City again.
Yep.
And they play Kansas City, at home next time.
Away.
So,
yep.
I mean, I could see the Raiders easily winning another 5 to 6 games. A 9-7 finish would not surprise me at all.
Okay.
I just need to reiterate this. So you have Oakland beating the Jets and possibly stealing a wild card spot.
They're coming up fast
Okay.
in Pittsburgh's rearview mirror because they get to go to Pittsburgh head to head.
They're not getting the wild card.
And let me
they're
tell
not
you,
getting the wild card spot.
we can talk all we want about Antonio Brown, all the Pittsburgh receivers,
The new
they're all
triple
great.
Amari
there.
Cooper.
But, there's this kid named Amari Cooper, and he is coming. He is coming. He's looking like
special.
a top 5 receiver already.
He's special. He's special. But let me tell you something. If Big Ben Roethlisberger is healthy and he plays against Oakland, Oakland's not beating Pittsburgh.
Football Sunday on ESPN Radio. After starting the season off at 1-4, Drew Brees and the Saints have won 2 straight.
Shotgun snap, floats it, and it is intercepted in the end zone.
Now the NFC East leading Giants come to the Superdome, winners of 4 of their last 5.
Manning airs it out down the right side for Beckham. Leaps, and came up with an outstanding catch inside the 5-yard line.
The Saints and Giants, Sunday at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Joining us now is an award-winning actor, director, writer, and producer, Spike Lee. Spike is the Grand Marshal of the New York City Marathon. That takes place this Sunday, coverage on ESPN2. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Welcome back.
What's up?
We're going to get to the marathon in a minute.
Was that it?
But first, we need to talk some hoops.
Yeah.
And I so appreciate how loyal you are to your Knicks. ESPN is giving them a 1% chance of making the playoffs. Let's just get right into it.
1%?
Yeah. Are they playoff bound? Are they going to defy these odds?
We got to win more than 17 games, though, right, Stephen A?
Yeah, you think? I'm trying to figure out where the hell the 1% came from. I'm trying to figure out where the hell the 1% come from. Who was the 1%? I want to know who they are. I want to know.
Well,
don't get me started.
Carmelo's healthy.
The season hasn't even started yet. Tranquilo. Look,
I'm trying.
I'm trying to be positive. You know, it's funny. I read the New York Times this morning driving there, and it said that New York Knicks undefeated. Yep, they haven't played a game yet. But I'll be at the Garden in my seats courtside tomorrow night. I know they open in Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a great young team. Jason Kidd, I think, is underrated.
He is.
As a coach, and I'm hoping, praying for the best. Orange and blue.
So that's a no. They're not playoff.
What was the question?
So that's a no. You dodged it nicely, though.
I just want to see a competitive team. You know, I really last year it was the worst season in history of the franchise, and they're one of the core,
cornerstone
of the NBA.
Yeah.
Skip Bayless, Spike, you and I, we could talk about this on national TV. I actually called Spike Lee last year and got on him, Skip, and jumped on him because I thought he was too damn supportive, and I blamed him. I held him partially responsible because I said if you stop holding out hope, maybe change would come. Why don't you stop sitting up there and trying to feed these folks a ray of hope? We actually got in an argument because of that. Here's my thing. I'm going to sit there and give the Knicks an actual break. I look at this as hard as I've been on Phil Jackson. It's primarily because he tanked the season and didn't warn us ahead of time, really, to be honest with you. But when I think about it, Skip, I'm going to be nice to Phil Jackson. I'm going to think about Carmelo Anthony. I've always liked Aaron Aflalo. This kid, Porzingis, people tell me he has potential, okay? Jerry and Grant out of Notre Dame is not bad.
No, he's good. He's good.
And I've always been a fan. He's good. And I've always been a fan of Cle Anthony Early. From his days at Wichita State when I saw him doing the NCAA tournament. I think the kid's got potential. So I'm going to give the Knicks a break. And you know something? If they can manage 30 wins and be competitive for at least 65, just competitive where we don't know the outcome by the second quarter, I'll be thankful.
So I'm going to take a quick left turn here. Your man Carmelo Anthony the other day made what came off to me as an offhand comment that also came off as taking a shot at the city of New York. Let's give it a listen, and then I want to get your reaction.
Okay.
New York is the greatest city on the planet, I think. But if you're not a New Yorker, if you don't wake up some days and be like, man, fuck this place. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care who you are. You can be the mayor, you can be the governor, all the way down to the mailman. Everybody wakes up some days and say, man, New York.
Look,
So,
Carmelo,
do you
I know.
ever think that?
First of all, I claim Carmelo. He was born in Red Hook, Brooklyn.
He was.
And they have no problem with what he says. New York City is the greatest city on this God's planet. But it's hard. It's not for everybody. And New York can beat you down. If you're not strong, you're going to be beat down. And so, with Carmelo, I echo what he said, but you still love it, though. You still love it, but it's not easy.
Have you ever gotten to that point where you say, heck with New York, so to speak?
No. But I get mad when I can't get a cab today.
I hear you.
You know, so they're just things that you have to deal with in New York, but despite that, it's the greatest city on the planet, and you just gotta be built for it. And that's especially for athletes. All athletes can't play in New York. Well, they rather play in a market where they have one newspaper, and if you mess up here in New York, it's horrible. But if you win, it's the greatest place ever.
Make it in New York, make it anywhere, right?
Well, let me say this as a native New Yorker. Hollis, Queens in the house.
Hollis.
Very, very clear.
Hollis, stand up.
Let me be very clear. That's right, Hollis, stand up. Let me be very, very clear. Carmelo Anthony was 1,000% right. He is absolutely right when he said, if he's ever proven that he's a New Yorker, it's with what he said, because that's exactly how we feel. If it's the great, and I wouldn't just say for athletes, Mike, I would say for anybody in the public eye.
Yes.
You better be on your game. You better have tough alligator skin. You better be able to.
You gotta be on point.
You better be able to give it. You better be able to give it as much as you can take it, because sometimes you do wake up and say, man, hell with this. I'm tired of the traffic jams. I'm tired of the constructions. I'm damn sure tired of the polls. I'm tired of having difficulty in catching a cab. All of that stuff. You go like this, man, I don't need this. And the taxes too. Let's not forget that. You look at all that, man, I don't need this nonsense. He's absolutely right.
True.
There is nothing that he said that should be taken negatively. He spoke for all New Yorkers, because any New Yorker that tells you they feel any differently than what Carmelo Anthony said from time to time is a damn liar.
And they're not from New York.
Damn liar.
They're not a true New Yorker.
That's right, and they're not from New York, or both, or both.
Okay, I'm going to speak as a guy who actually lives in Manhattan. I live in Manhattan.
Whatever.
And I'm here to suggest to both of you Knicks lovers that Carmelo is going to put himself on a little bit of a hot seat this year.
Because that's
not just because of that, but there will be some Knicks fans who will say, well, he didn't really show up last year. He didn't give me everything.
Hurt.
I know, but was he really hurt? Should he have toughed it out and played more games? I know.
Tough it out for what? They won 17 games. How much are we going to win?
That's right.
We're going to win 3 more games and play the whole season?
Max money is what he is making. So you're okay with that?
He should have sat out early.
What about your quarterback?
Oh, now we're changing the subject. Romo. He's hurt. He broke his collarbone.
Are you sure he's hurt?
So Anthony had a knee problem. What are you talking about?
Right.
You're hurt.
Okay.
Spike, get on him, Spike. Get him.
Okay.
You watched the game?
Huh?
The Giants-Cowboy game.
Did I watch it? I wish I hadn't watched it. Yeah, that's the point.
Big Blue in the house.
Yeah, Big Blue in the house. All right, speaking of New York loyalty now, I heard a little exchange before the show, before this segment started. You guys are both supposed to be Yankee fans. I'm not sure about this guy, but he says he's a Yankee fan.
Oh,
but now he's supporting the Mets. Is that okay with you?
Yes. There's no law written that says you cannot support one team. Let's talk specifically New York. You can be a Yankee fan and be happy that the Mets are in the World Series.
Are you happy?
Yes. I want the Mets to win.
Why?
Who's in Kansas City?
The Royals.
So you'd support the Nets after your Knicks?
Let's leave basketball out of it.
Case in point.
I have a different agenda. Spike. I have a different agenda that I want you to hear. Molly and Skip know this. I'm a diehard Yankee fan. No question. You know that. But when it comes to the Mets, especially with the Yankees not playing up to snuff, even though I was proud that they got to the postseason.
And no one thought they were going to make the playoffs, too.
Successful. That's right. I think the more successful the Mets are, the more that it heightens the level of urgency that the Yankees have
That's a good
in
point.
order to get back to where they once were. Because they ain't going to sit still and have New York handed to the New York Mets. I love that. I love that. And even though I root for the Mets now because I want them to win, I root for them against anybody but the Yankees. The fact is that it's going to help the Yankees if they're walking around as champions this offseason, because the Yankees, with George Steinbrenner's soul touching this franchise, he is not going to have that. And they will elevate their level of urgency. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you what I think about that. I think it is a lame rationale on your part.
Why is that lame?
We know what you think. We know what you think. I'm asking Spike.
The true Yankee fans I know, those who live in my building in Manhattan, they can't even speak the name Mets. They can't even.
That's not true.
The name Mets can't even come out of their mouth.
There are people like that.
Yeah,
but also,
there are.
Stephen A. and I are not only Yankee fans, devoted Yankee fans, who are happy that the Mets are in the World Series and want the Mets to win the World Series.
I get it. But I'm a Giants fan, and if they stink it up, I'm not rooting for the Jets. That's the last team.
Thank you.
But let's talk about, you had another thing to your resume, role as Grand Marshal of the New York City Marathon.
First New Yorker.
On ESPN 2. Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, I got a call from my man, Chris Weiler, who used to be with the Knicks back in the glory days. He called me up out of the thin blue air. I hadn't talked to him in years. He said, "We want you to be the Grand Marshal for the New York City Marathon." I said, "What? You have Grand Marshal?" I said, "No, we've only had, you will be the third and the first New Yorker." So I said, "Great." The marathon is one of the great sport, New York City Marathon is one of the great sport events in the world. And the route goes through my neighborhood in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, so I saw it from a little kid growing up. And I was just honored that I got the chance. And so going to all 5 boroughs, 50,000 runners.
That's awesome.
And it's going to be a beautiful day. I'm going to take pictures. My wife, Tanya, is going to be in the car. We're going to be in a convertible, Pontiac convertible, that will lead 50,000 runners through the 5 boroughs and end up in Central Park. So it's going to be a great day.
One of the coolest things you've ever done, right?
It will be.
Be up there.
It will be.
Sunday on ESPN2, we get to check it out. Thanks so much for being here. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All
Good
right.
job.
Good seeing you, bro. See you soon.
Bundle up on Sunday.
It's cold.
It's cold. Yeah, it's a
Hope it doesn't rain.
All right. Kobe Bryant makes his season debut at home against the Timberwolves tonight on ESPN. Kobe said on Tuesday that he's ready to go, but the Mamba has missed 123 games over the last 2 seasons because of various injuries. Stephen A., what do you expect from Kobe Bean Bryant this season?
You know what? I must confess to you guys, I have no idea. I haven't spoken to Kobe much this offseason, but more importantly, here's the reason why I don't know. Because I'm not a doctor and I don't know how healthy he's going to be. He says he's 100%. He's entering his 20th season. I look at this roster. I like the guard, Skip. I like Jordan Clarkson. Yeah. I think he's got tremendous potential. Even though I would have drafted Jahlil Okafor with the number 2 overall pick, D'Angelo Russell can play. And when I spoke to NBA aficionados, they swore up and down, Skip, that he's 2-3 steps ahead of everybody in terms of his IQ, running the point guard spot, understanding where people are supposed to be and what they're supposed to do. His athleticism doesn't knock you off your seat where you look at him and you see a Russell Westbrook. He doesn't have the shot of a Steph Curry, but he is somebody that is perceived as having the ability to one day be a Chris Paul type. Just being a floor general and being able to do some of those things. I don't know about that because, to me, Chris Paul isn't just gifted. He's a pit bull. He's got that kind of competitive fervor, and I don't know that about D'Angelo Russell. But I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying I don't know because I only watched him about 2 or 3 times at Ohio State, and I didn't really watch him play religiously on a collegiate level. So I don't know. All right, what Thad Matta and those boys, feel about him. I know what has been said, and I know obviously he's been worthy of being the number 2 pick in a lot of people's eyes. prior to what we saw during the Summer League games. But in the end, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to believe he can do some things. Although it's so guard strong in the Western Conference, I'm going to say it's going to take him a few years to really make some noise. So now what we get to, Skip, is your front line. Forget about Swaggy P. Forget about Meta World Peace. I'm happy he made the team and all that stuff. And if you want to laugh, you're hearing that he may actually be an assistant coach someday in the near future with the Lakers, if you believe some of the reports that are out there. Even though I kind of think that, I'm hopeful for him because he's an incredibly sweet guy. So you just wish the best for him. But on their front line, Skip, here's where I struggle. Their only hope is to slow the pace. Roy Hibbert, Brandon Bass. If you can slow the pace and control the boards, Kobe could do some damage for you. If you're going to let teams run up and down the floor and you're not able to dominate the boards and to neutralize teams to one shot, you're going to get ran up out of here if you're the Lakers. Because I think in terms of their front line, they're just not gifted. And in terms of Kobe, I don't care how gifted you are, your 20th year in the league is your 20th year in the league. And that's a lot to ask. So what I would say to you is that I don't anticipate that this season will be nearly as awful for the Lakers as last year's was. But I don't think they're winning 45 games or 50 games. I think that a respectable expectation for the Lakers would be that they'll finish like 35 and 47.
47 wins?
No, 35 victories.
I'm sorry. As I said, 35 to 47 wins. Yeah. I got it.
35 and 47 record. Yes. Got it. Contrary to popular belief, we never confer before a show, so I have no idea what you're going to say. And I must tell you, when you opened your soliloquy by saying you have no idea, I thought about this a lot last night. I'm with you. And I'm surprised you said that. I have no idea what to expect from one of the greatest players who ever played this game. I'm rooting for him. I will watch this team only because of him. But 20 years, as you say, is 20 years. Tonight, he almost certainly, I think he needs 3 or 4 minutes to pass Wilt Chamberlain on the all-time minutes list to get up to 4th all-time in minutes played. It's just so much wear and tear on a two guard's body. All the leaping and falling that he's done, all the collisions that he's had in the lane, take their toll. As we all know all too painfully well, Kobe Bryant has had to fight through so many major recent injuries that they take their toll. I know his heart's in the right place. I know nobody loves playing basketball any more than Kobe Bryant does, so I'm hoping he will be able to put on a show. But just for perspective, and back to your 35 wins prediction, Jim Buss recently told USA Today that he guarantees this team will make the playoffs. So let's do the 8th playoff spot that New Orleans won last year with 45 victories. Is there any way, shape, or form this team could win 45? No, and I'll tell you why. Stephen A., I remind everybody, Oklahoma City last year did not make the playoffs. Phoenix last year did not make it. Denver did not make the playoffs last year. And another team that I think both of us like a lot, Sacramento, obviously did not make the playoffs, and they are my sleeper team. I'm not sure they can make it, but I think they will make big noise this year, mostly because of DeMarcus Cousins, and in part because George Karl is running that show, and I love George, and I believe he and DeMarcus will mesh, at least for a little good while. So I think Sacramento is a better team than the Lakers. So this West is so deep. Obviously, the Mavericks probably will decline because they lost DeAndre, and we know what happened to them. So maybe they don't make it and Oklahoma City does. But Phoenix, it's got firepower. Phoenix is going to beat a lot of people. I think Denver with Moutier running the point, I think they're interesting. I think they're going to win a lot of games. So where does Kobe fit in the pecking order? Just not that high. And I know what NBA people keep telling you about D'Angelo Russell. I'm sorry, I watched him a lot at Ohio State. I watched him in their big games.
I don't love him. I know what you mean about his vision and basketball IQ, but he's not a shooter and he's not a sensational athlete, and I'm not seeing the CP3 tenacity, the heart, the strength, the stature. I'm not seeing all that. Obviously, he's an NBA baby, and so I don't want to be too hard on him, but I don't think he's going to change life right out of the box for Kobe Bryant. So I don't know. I like Jordan Clarkson. His shoulder's banged up. I'm not even sure he can play tonight. I like a lot of pieces here. I think Hibbert will help them a little bit in the middle. But could this team even sniff the playoffs? No. Can't sniff the playoffs.
I agree with you. I mean, because you're going to need, at least as far as I'm concerned, at least 47 wins just to make the playoffs in the Western Conference. And I can't see that happening. That's number one. Number two, I would say be a little nice to D'Angelo Russell. Let's see what he's got. The man hasn't played
all right, that's fair.
one single NBA game yet.
I'll wait and see and watch.
Let's give the kid, and not only that, your job as a point guard is to be an extension of the coach and run the team.
Yep.
So I think that, he really deserves a level of patience. Let's see what he's got. But I look at some of these guys. Anthony Brown, a Tariq Black, a Ryan Kelly, Marcelo Huertas, and Robert Sacre, and then I'm like, what? Well, I mean, I'm hoping Julius Randle is a stud, because we know coming out of Kentucky, he got hurt in the very first game of his rookie campaign. So having him down there, but I warn everybody, when he was at Kentucky, coming out, as much as I like him, and he's rough and rugged, he's not ambidextrous. I need to see him use his right hand more.
Yep.
Being a one-armed bandit in the NBA ain't gonna cut it. Unless you're Chris Bosh, because you could pull up from 15 to 17 feet and hit the occasional three. Outside of that, you got to really know how to use both hands. And I don't see this kid, Julius Randle, doing that as of yet. Again, he's a rookie, too, because even though this is the second year, he really didn't play his first year because he was down in midway through game one. So we'll see. You got him, you got D'Angelo Russell. We'll see what they have. Let's give them a chance. But I think it's clear to say this team ain't going to win you 47 games in the Western Conference. I just can't see that.
But I think we both agree. We'll both watch because of one man and one man only, the Mamba.
Without question.
Yep.
I second that.
I want to see what he's got. I wish I was there tonight.
Yep.
Speaking of Lakers, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar joining us tomorrow.
Oh, that'll
be great.
I'm trying to figure out. Let me see. Who the hell gonna stop Russell Westbrook? Steph Curry? I ain't got nothing but love for you, bro. Nobody can stop you, but you can't stop Russell Westbrook. Chris Paul, a superstar. You can't stop Russell Westbrook. Tony Parker? Oh, no. You have no answer for this man. You give me 2 stars that can put the ball in a hole at will. I'm rolling with them. My pick is Oklahoma City to meet Cleveland in the NBA Finals.
Skip and Stephen A's picks for the West face off tonight in OKC when the Thunder host the Spurs on
Can't
ESPN.
wait.
In case you didn't hear me, Bart Scott voice. Stephen A, convince Skip why you're picking the Thunder over his Spurs in the West, please.
Well, first of all, let's understand we don't lie to the American people on this show or the folks internationally who view us. Anybody who knows anything about Skip knows there's no convincing him. He's the most hard-headed individual that you'll find. He's got a rock on top of those shoulders of his. He's not budging. Nobody's going to convince him to see it, no matter how logical, sensible, factual they are. Skip is as hard-headed as they come. There's no convincing him. Let's get that out the way.
No comment.
Now that we've done that, exercising futility, no doubt, I will make this case. The San Antonio Spurs, as lethal and as legitimate as they are also old. Now, we have said this about them on many occasions, and I do get that. But at some point in time, Father Time comes knocking. And when he hits you, it's usually minimal warnings that come your way. It just hits you, and all of a sudden you just wake up one day and you say, damn, I'm just not what I used to be anymore. It's just that simple. You're going up against not only Russell Westbrook, the reigning league scoring champion, and an assassin of the highest order, as ruthless of a basketball killer that exists in the NBA. But then you couple that with a guy in Kevin Durant who only played 27 games last year, still averaged 25, by the way, but only played 27 games, had people questioning whether or not his career was ever going to be the same, wondering himself whether or not he was going to get healthy and be able to play, and now he's back doing his thing. I think that he's going to be hungry. I think Russell Westbrook is going to be hungry. I think Serge Ibaka is one of the elite defensive players in the game. I think the Enes Kanters of the world, Steven Adams of the world, especially Steven Adams, gives you a bad boy, a level of physicality. And a part of Enes Kanter, you've got a guy that can average 18 and 10 for you. I'm looking at their bench. I'm looking at them combined with their youth, their athleticism, their perimeter shooting, their speed, all of those things taken into consideration. I believe, and their familiarity, by the way, with San Antonio, because they're accustomed to going up against one another. A dogfight, no doubt there will be. But if there is one team I think the San Antonio Spurs do not want to face, it is the Oklahoma City Thunder. I believe the combination of Westbrook and Durant not having to really deal with Aldridge and Tim Duncan down low, because they could both pull up from the outside or run up and down the court all day long. I think their skill set puts them in a position to be the kryptonite to the San Antonio Spurs, more so than anybody else in the Western Conference, and that includes Golden State.
You know what? I completely agree with your bottom line. The number one fear factor in San Antonio, the team they dread playing in the Western Conference Finals the most, no doubt it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Why is that? Because if San Antonio plays its best and the Thunder happen to play their best and hit on all cylinders and stay out of each other's way and click, the Thunder will win. But the problem is that there's one team that can beat the Thunder, and that's the Thunder. And that's my issue. And I'm going back to the most shocking thing you've said to me in a long time on this show was you picked Russell Westbrook to be the MVP this year in this league. Kevin Durant, obviously going back a couple of years ago, won the MVP. And it was shocking to me because I cannot imagine Kevin Durant. I don't want to say that he would, he wouldn't resent it if Russell won the MVP. He just wouldn't allow it because there's not enough room for Russell to win MVP. I'm sorry. There's one person on earth who can stop Russell Westbrook, and that's Kevin Durant, because they're co-superstars. And I love them both in a vacuum. This one in a vacuum, this one in a vacuum. They're two of the top 5 players, just as our ESPN ranking said yesterday. Heck, you can make a case when Kevin's right, he's better than LeBron in a lot of ways. But they get in each other's way. And Kevin, as we all know, and I've talked about this for years on this show, Kevin's nature is unpredictable to me. Some days he's an ambassador for basketball, and the next day he's not nice Kevin Durant. His emotions rise and fall. His moods rise and fall. He's a little tricky to play with. Russell's always 1,000 miles an hour. He doesn't look to the right or to the left. And sometimes I believe, and I have heard, that it wears on Kevin, and I don't blame him. And I think that's a reason that Kevin would consider leaving Oklahoma City. He's just not sure there's enough room for both of them in that town of Oklahoma City. And to me, it's such a troubled dynamic. Not that they hate each other, because they off the court, they like each other. I'm just telling you, it's hard for the two of them to mesh at the highest level. So what happened in Game 6 2 years ago in Oklahoma City in the Western Conference Finals? The Spurs stole that game, because down the stretch, Duncan made a huge shot in overtime. Actually, Ginobili made the biggest shot to get it to overtime, a 3 that got it there. And then what happened? Westbrook and Durant got in each other's way in overtime. Is it your turn? Is it my turn? One missed, the other missed, the other missed, the other missed. And all of a sudden, my Spurs, by default, won that game and advanced to the championship and blew LeBron's team off the floor. My point to you is, if you want me to, I'll pick the Spurs this year by default, because there's something will go wrong in Oklahoma City. The Spurs are a better overall basketball team, which plays better defense because it's better coached. Now we're looking at a rookie coach in Oklahoma City, a Billy Donovan, who comes with the highest marks from anybody who watched college basketball. Everybody has nothing but great things to say about Billy Donovan's potential to be a great NBA coach. But in year one, trying to juggle those two superstars, I don't know, Stephen A. I'm sorry. If it comes to a Western Conference Finals, I'm going with Pop Squad here.
Well, I don't blame you for doing that, but I mean, again, my case, I think is valid because we're talking about the greatness of two superstars who, by the way, give credit where credit is due. You may have your reservations about them. Other people may have their reservations about them, but these two guys do not. Not just about themselves, but about each other. Kevin Durant, if in the event that either of them end up leaving Oklahoma City, they'd like to play together, preferably in L.A., from the things that I've been hearing. Yep. So when you take it into consideration, listen, the bottom line is these two guys are close. And it doesn't appear like their relationship is fake or inauthentic in any way. They got a lot of respect and a lot of love for one another. Let's give credit where credit is due. You know, and we know what their abilities are. Kevin Durant, when healthy, is the second best player, is universally recognized as the second best player on the planet. Yep. I mean, let's put that in its proper perspective. This dude can score 30 in his sleep. He is as unstoppable as they come. And we know how vicious Russell Westbrook can be. So the combination of those two guys with Adams and Cantor and Ibaka, I don't think that's anything to sniff at. I really, really don't. I look at Oklahoma City as a legitimate threat. San Antonio plausibly should and could end up being the favorites. And we get that. But we never know when Father Time is going to knock on their door. We don't anticipate that for a long time when it comes to Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. And we know they have the ability, the skill, and the desire to knock off San Antonio. I wouldn't sleep on OKC at all. I think OKC is going to the finals.
And I realize my Spurs are old and they're slow and they're unathletic, but somehow, some way, they actually added LaMarcus Aldridge, and David West went to the Spurs to take virtually no money when he could have had a whole lot of money to stay in Indianapolis. And obviously, he just wants to win a ring, and he's got a great shot. And I'm going to close my argument. I've got Bobby this year. I've got him. I've got Boban Marjanovic, 7 feet 3 inches of Serbian, who's going to play high minutes when Tim Duncan doesn't. So you better be careful because you're overlooking the 7'3" guy right now, who could be the catalyst and the difference maker in this case.
I am overlooking him, but it ain't just because he's Bobby. That's not the reason. I'm overlooking him because unlike the Clippers, unlike the Memphis Grizzlies, the Oklahoma City Thunder do not have to deal with him. When you have Durant and Russell Westbrook, who can kill you away from the basket, you don't have to deal with him. Just like Golden State doesn't have to worry about him. Now, if he's an offensive force and he's going to drop 25 a night for you, that's different. But defensively, even with his size and height and whatever, if you are a perimeter shooting team or capable of being a perimeter shooting team to take you to the promised land, you don't have to worry about him nearly as much as the Clippers or Memphis Grizzlies squad has to worry about him. That's why I'm not concerned.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt, frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
The Royals take Game 1 of the World Series with a 5-4 win in 14 innings. Leading 4-3 in the ninth, the Mets brought in closer Jeurys Familia, who gave up the game-tying homer to Alex Gordon. Did the Mets lose the World Series in the ninth inning last night, Skip?
Stephen A., I picked the Mets to win the World Series after you convinced me in the Cubs series that the Mets were as legit as I didn't think they were. Obviously, they beat the Cubs, they steamrolled the Cubs, who I thought had beaten the two best teams in baseball, St. Louis and Pittsburgh. So I must tell you, I stayed up and watched this whole game last night because I could not turn it off. And my lingering emotion on very little sleep is that the Mets are in big trouble. I'm not sure I'm going to leap to the conclusion that they lost it, but my instincts are telling me they did. And Stephen A., as you know, it was as classic and wildly swinging a baseball game as you will ever see, especially on the World Series stage, because first Eric Hosmer commits a Buckner-esque blunder, should have gotten his body in front of a high-hopping grounder, misplayed it, let it eat him up, and it allows the Mets to take a 4-3 lead that there's no way they're going to give back, because, as you know, Familia is going to come in and slam the door. And as we all know, and we've learned and learned and learned, Familia was untouchable. Familia was invincible. And the last thing I expected, as my eyes were starting to close in the bottom of the ninth, is for the 8-hole hitter, a struggling Alex Gordon, once great, but struggling now, to not just hit a home run. It wasn't just that he hit a home run. He annihilated it. He hit it. He hit it to the Oklahoma line. It was the shot heard not just around Kansas City, as Molly said. It was heard round the world. It was Kirk Gibson-esque. So we went from Buckner-esque to Gibson-esque. It didn't win the game, even though it felt like it did, because he mauled it so bad, it flew well over the center field fence. It left Cespedes sort of slumped against the wall like, oh my God, what just happened? And it seemed to take the fire out of the Mets, who were on fire, who thought they were invincible. And then it came full circle to a fairy tale ending for the home team when Eric Hosmer goes from all-time GOAT to hero with the sac fly that eventually wins the game. I realize momentum in baseball is only as good as the next day's starting pitcher. And tonight's starting pitcher, as you well know, is DeGrom on long rest. Obviously, he's been the Mets' most dominating starter. But Stephen A., I still don't understand why he couldn't have started Game 1. That was troubling to me, just like it was troubling in the previous series that Arrieta couldn't start Game 1 for the Cubs. So I think you just ask DeGrom, even though he's got a little tired arm, you just got to do it. You've got to suck it up and make an opening game statement. We are in control in Kansas City. Now they're not in control. More pressure on DeGrom tonight, because if they don't win this one, they're really in trouble. I think they will lose the series if they don't win tonight. I don't love their chances against a Cueto who struggled in the postseason, but I think at home, with that crowd on fire now for the Royals, I think the Mets are in big trouble.
I think Cueto could be had. That's number one. Number
he has
two,
been had.
I do agree with you. I do agree with you that I thought DeGrom should have started Game 1. I don't quite understand why Matt Harvey had to go Game 1. I was worried about that. But my mentality was that, remember, I picked the Mets in 5. I thought that the Mets would steal one of these two games and then protect their home turf and close it out at Citi Field in Queens, New York. That's just my thinking. Everything's about this staff to me, Skip. About Harvey, about DeGrom, about Syndergaard, who, by the way, I don't like the fact that he cut his hair. I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that at all. Don't mess with what's working for you. I don't like the fact that he cut his hair. Please don't get me wrong. But nevertheless, I still believe in him, and I believe in Matz to a slightly lesser degree, but I still believe in him. Cespedes and those boys in outfield messing up that play to allow the inside the park run on the very first pitch definitely turned me off. Hosmer's error was something that the Mets should have been taking advantage of. I have never, believed this or not, Skip, I've never really been a fan of Familia. It's one of the things me and my boy Jeff argue about all the time. He hasn't blown a save since July 3rd. I said, I don't care. I mean, listen, you got to remember that for me, Mariano Rivera is the standard. It's one thing to close. It's another thing to be dominant while closing. As Alec Baldwin said in that movie, Glenn Ross, always be closing. That's what I'm looking for a closer to do. And when I see Familia, My problem with him is that on many, many occasions, even when he's won, Skip, he's made it far more interesting than it needed to be. And that's why I wasn't surprised. I mean, I was very disappointed when I saw it. I was fearful he was going to give up a hit. I didn't think it was going to be a 438-foot shot straight away over the center field wall. I didn't think that was going to happen. But nevertheless, it is what it is. It's just one game. I said it before, and I'll say it again. I know the Royals can play small ball. I know they can manufacture runs. Lorenzo Cain for the Royals was on my radio show yesterday, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time every weekday, right there on Mad Dog Sports Radio. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that he told me yesterday that, listen, we have a way we've got to get on base, but we have ways to get on base without relying on the long ball. That can be problematic for the Mets, but at the end of the day, I've never seen superior hitting, superior base running, superior run manufacturing usurp superior pitching. And I believe the Mets have superior pitching, which is why I believe in them, and I believe they'll turn this around. I think they win tonight, Game 2.
And I believe the Kansas City Royals are the best fastball hitting team in baseball, and I don't think it's even close.
They are.
And DeGrom is going to have to be really good with his secondary pitches, his breaking ball, his off-speed pitches. He's going to have to be virtually perfect tonight to keep them from scoring a couple runs. That may be all they need.
Slight little warning. Mets infield, they got to be on their P's and Q's. Outfield, of course, too. But definitely the infield, these guys have to be kept off base. No errors. Bring your A game on the defensive side of the ball. You keep Kansas City off the base paths, you can demoralize them. Even if they're not scoring runs, Skip, if they find ways to get on base, it emboldens them because they know how to manufacture runs. It's not enough to avoid the home run. You literally got to keep these boys off base.
And by the way, the Mets' cornerstone player, their version of Derek Jeter, David Wright, he did commit the error that opened the door for the winning run to score.
Des Bryant will take part in practice Wednesday for the first time since suffering a foot injury in Week 1. A source told ESPN Cowboys reporter Todd Archer Bryant is likely to be limited in his first work with teammates in more than 6 weeks, but his participation is a positive sign toward playing Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. Skip Bayless, Des could be back. Is he going to play Sunday?
God, I think I should do this,
Yeah.
right? It's been a long time since I got to do this, Stephen A.
Good, I'm a single shot.
Just for the feel-goodness of it. Okay.
He's ignoring us.
Now, back to objectivity.
Yeah.
I guess there's a chance Des Bryant will attempt to play against the Seattle Seahawks at Jerry World on Sunday. I'm going to go Stephen A. on the Steelers. As we heard earlier in this show, Stephen A. Smith took the stance that he does not want Big Ben to play yet. He should save himself to make sure he's ready to go for the back half of the season by not playing this Sunday against the Cincinnati Bengals in Pittsburgh. That was Stephen A.'s earlier stance on this show. I'm going to take a similar one here on Des. I do not want him to play against the Rough Riders that are the Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom. I don't think it is worth the risk because, and I'm going to be honest about this, Stephen A., I do not like my team's chances against the Seahawks at Jerry World this Sunday. Seattle owes Dallas. Dallas embarrassed Seattle at Seattle, as you recall, last year. The Legion of Boom snacks on backup quarterbacks like Matt Castle. In fact, it'll be the equivalent. Matt Castle will be like Oberto beef jerky, just another piece of beef jerky for Richard Sherman.
You get out.
What you get, what you put in. Yeah, we get it. And so that little voice in my stomach, you know, Richard will be dropping a little Oberto Castle jerky down his throat to you this time. I just don't love it. I'm sorry. It's the wrong place, wrong time. If I'm Des, I wait one more week just to make sure that your surgery will take and hold, and let's go ahead and let it all fly against the Eagles the following week at Jerry World. I'm okay with that. I just don't like our chances this week against the Seahawks at home, where the Cowboys notoriously don't play very well anyway. Your thoughts, Mr. Smith?
Well, Skip Bayless, first of all, let me say to you that I'm very, very proud of the position that you've taken. I mean, the fact that, you seem to be echoing my sentiments, I mean, it just shows that you're
I'm learning.
Learning from the best.
On a daily basis.
At the foot of the master.
I'm just touched by that.
Yeah.
I
even worked in Alberto. How good was that?
Hey, listen, man. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and they were talking to me about how if you go on Siri and you say Stephen A. Smith, it sounds like it's saying Stephen Naismith. So I love it. I give you credit for all of that because that's my favorite nickname of all. You did.
You invented the sport of basketball, Stephen Naismith. Yes.
Not just when it comes to basketball, evidently, you listen on other things as well. Because Dez doesn't need to rush back. Why rush back for this? I mean, that's what this comes down to. What he needs to do is use these next couple of weeks to get himself in pristine condition.
Yep.
So when Tony Romo comes back, he's ready to aid Tony Romo. Because one would argue that whether it's Brandon Whedon due to bad luck or Matt Castle with his QBR of 17 from last week with 17 of 27 passing for 227 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. There's but so much that Dez Bryant is going to be able to do if you got quarterbacks that tap dance excessively when pressure is applied in the pocket, when can't see over the line of scrimmage for whatever reason, or want to throw a football that has more air under it, that is almost like floating in a balloon for crying out loud, which is one of the passes, one of the interceptions that Matt Castle threw.
Yep.
So when you look at it from that perspective, I totally agree with you. I think it's entirely wise for Dez Bryant to wait. I think it's entirely wise for Dez Bryant not to rush back. It's good that he's back there practicing. I'll put up the X for you, make you feel better. But in the end, that's in practice. In the end, that's during the week. He has no business on the field in game time until, as far as I'm concerned, Tony Romo gets back, because there's little to nothing he's going to be able to do to help the Cowboys prior to that.
And I will remind you, most athletes who suffer this injury, this Jones fracture, take at least 3 months to get right from it. Now Dez Bryant's about to be 6 weeks into his rehab. I don't know. I don't love it. I'm sorry. Yeah, don't rush it.
At least take a 2 full months off, which means an additional 2 to 3 weeks from now. Before. I know it's hard because you're a Cowboy, and obviously they've lost 4 straight, and then you're looking at the possibility of them losing 6 to 7 straight. I know.
Make it 8. Make it 9. Who cares?
I get it. But I just think that, you know what? He should hold out for at least a couple of more weeks before he even considers getting back on the field.
Listen, maybe it's going to uplift the team in practice today.
It might.
Maybe.
And,
maybe I wouldn't rule it out, Skip.
Who knows? Maybe the Giants will lose at New Orleans. You never know. Could they?
Maybe. It's possible. It's possible, Skip. I mean, listen, we can't rule anything out.
Nope,
Skip.
we can't.
There's still
we could rule that in,
there's
maybe.
Still hope for your Cowboys.
Another bold prediction. I'll wait for that one. I'll wait for that for later in the week. We already had the Raiders. Big week of guests continues the rest of the week. Tomorrow, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will stop by, and Friday, Redskins wide receiver Pierre Garçon will pay us a visit. So tune in for the rest of the week, and of course, for Skip and Stephen A. The top 2 picks in this year's NBA draft face off tonight in Los Angeles when Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell make their debuts. But according to odds makers, neither are the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. 76ers center Jahlil Okafor is a 3-1 favorite, while Towns and Russell are 5-1 and 6-1 favorites, respectively. Stephen A., who's going to win Rookie of the Year?
I got to tell y'all something.
Okay.
First of all, let's understand this. Karl Anthony Towns deserves to be the favorite to capture Rookie of the Year honors. The reason that I say that, Skip Bayless, is because not only is he going to be your starter at the 5, I spoke to Coach Sam Mitchell on my radio show for the Minnesota Timberwolves yesterday as well. And by the way, Skip, let's take a quick moment to pay our respects to the late, great Flip Saunders, head coach, president of the Timberwolves, and his passing. Wonderful guy. We worked with him here at ESPN. Obviously, Coach, God bless him and his family. Let's just say that. But when you look at Karl Anthony Towns, they've got him starting at the 5. So because he's going to start at the 5 and he's being schooled and tutored by KG, and he could also play that stretch 4, he's going to be in position to put up some decent numbers. And he's got the inside track on that. The reason why I don't consider him a lock, however, for Rookie of the Year, Skip, is because he's playing around a bunch of young guys. I'm not sold on Ricky Rubio, even though he's not that young. He's been around long enough. But Zach LaVine is his backup. Shabazz Muhammad at the 3, who loves to shoot. You're looking at Andrew Wiggins, who's going to be at the 2. Not sure about that.
Yep.
Here's the guys that I keep my eyes on. Stanley Roberts in Detroit, out of Arizona. I like his chances to win Rookie of the Year. And Emmanuel Mudiay for Denver, who went to China and was supposed to be at SMU with Larry Brown. Those are the 2 that I think could knock Karl Anthony Towns off for Rookie of the Year. I'm not putting D'Angelo Russell because he's young, and I'm not putting Jahlil Okafor because he plays for the Sixers, who I think will suffer again this year.
No Porzingis in that conversation?
He might deserve it. We'll see.
Okay. You know how much I love Karl Anthony Towns because I told you before the draft, for months before the draft, that would be my guy. I think he will prove to be a better NBA player than Jahlil Okafor. I could also see Okafor easily winning Rookie of the Year just because he's got an NBA body already. I'm not sure about Karl Anthony's physique yet. I'm not sure about his physicality. And even though we know the Sixers are not going to be very good either, I think that Okafor is going to be a fairly dominating rookie player. And I agree with the odds. I would give him the best shot to win. Now, I'm a big Mudiay guy, too. And I told you I thought the Knicks missed the boat not taking him over Porzingis. Larry Brown said this is his guy, that Larry would think about taking him in the first couple of picks in the draft. So I'm watching closely on Mudiay. But go ahead.
I meant Stanley Johnson, not Stanley Roberts.
Yeah, I got it. I knew what you were talking about.
Stanley Johnson.
I used to like Stanley Roberts, too, once upon a time. But,
yes.
Okay.
Once upon a time.
All right. My point is, I'm surprised you're giving Okafor no credit here. You're just dismissing him from this conversation. You didn't bring him up.
Only because I think the Sixers are going to stink. I think that we need to look at Sam Hinkie, the general manager, who openly tanked one season and arguably tanked 3. And at some point in time, whether it's Nerlens Noel being drafted while he's hurt, whether it's Joel Embiid being drafted while he's hurt, we have to start looking at the Philadelphia 76ers in the 4th largest market in America and saying, could you win some damn games for the city there? Jahlil Okafor can play. It won't be his fault, but the team is going to suffer. They're not going to be very good. That's why I couldn't consider him. It has nothing to do with him.
Okay, and I'm going to remind you of this one more time. Bobby, my new Spur, 7'3" Serbian, is a rookie. He's 27 years old, but he qualifies, I'm pretty sure, as a rookie. Let's not dismiss him from this conversation.
A 27-year-old rookie?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. That's like senior citizen status for rookies. I don't like giving them that.
Well,
I don't like putting them in that.
I'm pretty sure he qualifies. I know, but you better watch it.
I'm looking for pops and flashes, just like crazy in football. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I can't talk. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Catch First Take weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern and catch the re-air at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2.
The Giants began the season 0-2, while the Saints were 0-3. Both have only lost once since. This Sunday, they go head-to-head at the Superdome.
Touchdown!
Coverage begins at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.